apologize. I can't remember what the actual dialogue was. It was, the object of what you seek is ahead. It's not in front of you. It's not behind you. It's ahead of you, or something to this. And I think it sort of alludes to looking for Luke, right? This one came out yesterday. We get new Snoke dialogue, and in it was this amazing quick shot of Starkiller Base being fired. Now, J.J. Abrams has come out and said that not more than likely, my apologies there. J.J. Abrams has come out and said that this is a Death Star 3, but that the First Order is trying to do it bigger and better than anybody else has. And so it shows the shot from the trailers we've seen on Starkiller Base of General Hux addressing just the thousands of troopers, First Order troopers, except this time you can see the just massive red laser firing in the background, and that aligns with the shot that we've seen from trailers, and it's in this one, of Kylo Ren looking out from what we believe is the Star Destroyer bridge at the red streak going across space being Starkiller Base. I'm still convinced, by the way, that something deflects that beam towards its target, unless they have gone and done something with the planet itself to where they can move it. I'm still convinced that there's something else that directs the beam. So anyway, here's the audio from the latest TV spot. New dialogue from both Kylo Ren and Snoke in this TV spot.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it? Yes. Even you have never faced such a test. And it's time.
All teams, give it everything you got!
You don't know what I've seen. We all need to run.
We must face them. Fight them.
All right, now I want to read to you some comments from Empire Magazine, and then we'll go back and we'll do a little bit of dissecting, and I'll give you some of my thoughts on what I think some of the dialogue means. But in the latest issue of Empire Magazine, there was this extensive article about The Force Awakens, and some interesting things to note that J.J. Abrams said about Supreme Leader Snoke. He said that he was critical in the seduction of Ren to the dark side. He is a hugely important part of the story and will continue to be. So it appears that Snoke was the guy who was involved in Kylo Ren and him, joining the Knights of Ren or being a part of the Knights of Ren. And I guess, again, this was kind of always a given, but now it's sounding more like, Kylo Ren was lured to the dark side by Snoke. Now, I know this has some people upset because they're thinking that this has a Darth Vader Palpatine feel to it. And this is part of the podcast that I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about, and that is how much of The Force Awakens are fans going to allow to mirror the other movies and sort of the expectation that people have. Now, also in this article, and then I'll get back to the clip here. It talks a little bit about Maz Kanata. There are flags all on the front of Maz Kanata's castle that we've seen in the trailer, and in the article, Abrams says she's been a smuggler for a long time and has been running this watering hole for 1,000 years. She's sort of the barkeep you go to for help. So again, this kind of reconfirms what we already knew about Maz. But it also, again, establishes that she's been around for a long, long time. And as many people are beginning to notice this now, and I put it up on my Twitter feed, I guess about a week ago, there's a little statue in Anakin's bedroom in The Phantom Menace that looks just like Maz Kanata. I mean, just like her. I mean, in statue form. I mean, it's a little bit of a sort of an artistic rendering, but I mean, you look at it and you look at the picture on the poster of Maz Kanata, I mean, and it looks just like each other. So I just thought it'd be interesting to see if they actually intended to have her look like that statue. And again, maybe she's sort of a person that's incredibly well known in the galaxy and the stuff of myths and legends. And are we going to see her in Rogue One because she's been around for so long? So let's get back to this spot. And I want to dissect a little bit of the audio here and do a start and stop. So again, here is the latest TV spot called All the Way.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it? Yes. Even you have never faced such a test. And it's time.
All teams, give it everything you got.
So there's been an awakening. Have you felt it? And then you hear Kylo Ren say yes. And then you hear even you have never faced a test like this. Now this kind of kicks open the door to a lot of speculation about what they're referring to, because I hadn't heard anything, even in reading all the spoilers that I've read, about any kind of journey as it relates to Kylo Ren, or that he's being tested, and what could possibly, what could that test possibly be? And again, this kind of goes back to the relationships that these characters could have together. I don't know. Nobody, and this, I mean, even in terms of spoilers, nobody knows, and we've talked about this before, so it's not much of a spoiler, but the idea that Kylo Ren would be Han and Leia's son, and he has to go face his dad, is that part of the test, and it's not going to go the way that he would want it to go? He's going to have to fight back those family feelings. What if Rey and Kylo are brother and sister? And she is trying to bring him over, or trying to get him to turn, or he's trying to get her to turn. So this is really interesting and exciting, because it tells me, again, that there's still a lot about this movie that we don't know yet, which is cool. I mean, there's a lot of the backstory and a lot of details here. Even for those of us that are spoiled, we have a general plot structure, but how this whole thing fits within the larger universe is still a big mystery. Now, based off of what everybody knows about the movie, I have seen some people talk about how they're concerned that the film itself is it's going to be a rehash of A New Hope, or it's going to mirror A New Hope too much. And there's a lot of people concerned about, J.J. Abrams and what he did when it came to, when he did Into Darkness, which I know gets a lot of grief from people. I really dig that movie. I mean, I like both the Star Trek films, and it still surprises me that Into Darkness gets criticized the way that it does. Now, J.J. Abrams did come out recently and admit that he felt there were too many nods to the Wrath of Khan in the film. So he actually copped up to that, which is one of the big complaints, which makes me believe that this one won't have as many direct nods, or won't be simply a reboot of A New Hope. It's going to have similarities. It should have similarities, I guess is my point. People concerned about, this is going to be, Kylo Ren and Snoke is going to be too close to Vader and Palpatine. But that's how these structures work. That's how these dynamics and these relationships work. That's how these movies work. When you, I mean, and even George Lucas himself has talked about rhyming and how the movies are supposed to rhyme, and how in The Phantom Menace, with Anakin going and destroying the droid control ship. I mean, he even said in the making of that movie that was intentional. It's supposed to rhyme a lot like his dad did with the Death Star in A New Hope. People have pointed to their concern over a Death Star 3, and I think we actually covered this in last week's podcast a bit. I'm cool with it, man. Bigger and better. That's the big weapon in the universe. That's the kind of stuff that they make. I will say, let me switch gears here a bit. I'm not concerned about the similarities. I do trust, J.J. Abrams to do the right thing with this movie, and I think that we build up these films in our minds to be a lot better than they are. And I don't mean that, because I love all the Star Wars movies, and I love the original trilogy, but it's not like they were perfect movies. It was a mythology of it. It was the characters in it. It was the technology of the film, the lived-in universe. I mean, it did all these things right, but you're still talking about kids' movies, right? People act like it needs to be Oscar-worthy. It doesn't need to be Oscar-worthy. None of the other movies were really Oscar-worthy. I mean, maybe A New Hope for its time, but, in terms of what people look for in an Oscar-worthy movie, I mean, those aren't Star Wars movies. They're supposed to be adventures. I've decided, and this fits in with this, I've decided to switch up my own personal journey to The Force Awakens a little bit. This weekend it's Revenge of the Sith, and I plan on watching that tonight. But I decided to throw in the Star Trek movies into the mix. And last night I sat down and I watched the 2010 J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie. And I remember we were in the middle of it. I'm watching it with Logan. And again, J.J. Abrams, after watching that movie again for the umpteenth time, I'm ready to say that J.J. Abrams is one of my favorite directors. I love his visual style and the way that he crafts his shots and the pacing of the movie. It on every level appeals to me. And I'm watching the Star Trek reboot, if you will, last night. And Logan is, sitting next to me, watching it with me. And I go, man, you know what? If we just get a movie as good as this one in the Star Wars universe, it's going to be amazing. Now, again, the Star Trek reboot isn't an Oscar-worthy film. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't even say it's a great film. It's just a really good, fun movie to watch. And that's all that I want, is a really good, fun movie to watch. And so it just goes all the way back to when we originally heard that Disney was buying Lucasfilm, and then we heard that J.J. Abrams was directing it, and shortly afterwards we got Into Darkness, which I really like. So I'm going to be including that in my journey to The Force Awakens, hopefully later on this weekend as well. And I remember walking out of Into Darkness going, man, if the Star Wars movie is half as good as what we just watched, I'm totally fine. And I think a lot of what I'm even talking about is mostly within the inner circle of the hardcore fans and the podcasts. I think the general public is going to gobble this movie up and love it. And as a matter of fact, I have here in front of me a couple more articles, or at least some pieces of some articles. One of them from Glamour Magazine and Daisy Ridley I'll share with you here in a moment. But apparently Steven Spielberg has seen the movie now 3 times. He has a close connection to Star Wars, obviously. He saw the first Star Wars rough cut when George screened it for his friends. And, I think it says a lot that Steven Spielberg has watched the movie now 3 times. And listening to the Collider Jedi Council, they do the Movie Talk podcast every week, and Christian Harloff and John Campea and Mark Ellis. They do a weekly podcast and video called the Jedi Council. And John Campea, I need to go back and listen to it again. I just listened to it this morning.